Did you know it's been so long since I've been in here, since the last video I made saying that I was going to come back and start doing movie reviews on the regular? It's been so long since I made my last video review that when I came through the fucking door over there into this studio, there was a fucking spider web over top of this table. Welcome to Happywax TV. Okay, I'm not going to say I'm going to be back on the regular because I've said that 3 times now and I don't know. But every time I find a movie that I think I want to talk about for the next little while, I'm going to jump on here and talk about it. So tonight, we are talking about a movie. As soon as I saw the title, I was like, okay, I got to watch this movie. I don't know if it's going to be any good. Never heard about it before, but we're going to watch it and see. And after it was done, I thought, you know what? This is probably a movie I should talk about because like, a lot of people aren't going to like this movie. There'll be some that will, okay, but listen, we're not going to lie here. I've never lied to you guys before if I think a movie's a pile of shit. And there is a lot wrong with this movie, okay? I'm not even going to pull any punches. But I didn't hate it. I didn't want to shut it off halfway through. Nothing like that. So I gave it a chance, and I'm going to point out what I felt was wrong with this movie and how it could be better. But at the end of it, I didn't hate it, and I am going to recommend that you guys watch it, as I do with all the movies I talk about, whether I love them or hate them. If you don't want to hear me talk about this movie for the next little bit, to give it a rating, I'll probably give it a 5. I'm not going to fail it. Okay, I easily could if I wanted to, but I'm not. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, and yeah, I recommend that you watch this one. I think you can watch it on YouTube for like $5 to rent it or something like that. So anyways, it's called Man vs. Bigfoot, and it is directed, written, and stars David D. Ford. Never heard of the guy before. I don't think he's done much in the past. I didn't really research him. But basically, here, I'll read the synopsis. After his brother goes missing on a hiking trail, Jack Rollins goes in search of him. But in doing so, Jack soon finds himself in a game of cat and mouse with a creature thought only to be legend. Okay, well, that's pretty much the story. The first act, we're introduced to Jack Rollins, who is played by David D. Ford. He is a police officer, or I guess an ex-police officer, who's got time off because he's dealing with some traumatic stuff that he went through during a routine, I guess, pullover of a car. Some shit happens, and he's mentally dealing with this, having a hard time with it. While he's off, his brother decides he wants to go on this hiking trip, but just by himself. And from what I, heard them talk about and stuff, he's done this a few times. It's just kind of a way to kind of, decompress and stuff like that, and just kind of relax. And this is something that he does. So his brother goes on this hiking trip by himself, and he goes missing. Again, this is a low budget movie, okay? This isn't a big budget movie, so you have to keep this in mind when you go into this movie, okay? It is micro budget small, okay? And it shows because in the first act, a lot of people are going to be saying to me, or saying to themselves, like, what the fuck is Myron saying this is a good movie? Because honestly, and I'm not pulling any punches here, the acting in this movie is terrible. It really is. The lines feel like they, were just written down in red, minutes prior to the camera rolling. A lot of the dialogue between characters, like conversations, is kind of cringy. It doesn't seem real. Like they're trying. I'm not taking away that they weren't trying to be good, but I mean, you get this style of acting in micro budget movies. In fact, it's probably a lot of them are just friends and stuff trying to help out, to be honest. Okay, that's what I got, but I was accepting of that. There were some good performances in this. Like, I mean, David D. Ford, it's a pretty physical movie for him. And then when we're in the second act, when we're introduced to Don Big Horse, who is played by Antonio Tech, I mean, he's a fairly decent actor. He's got a killer voice, I'll give him that much. But that's the first act. The brother goes missing. He's a police officer. He loves his brother. He's got to go in and try and find him into these woods because the police and the search parties have just deemed him, killed by a bear or something like that, and he doesn't accept it. So he goes in the forest and he hunts for his brother, and then this is where the second act kind of like halfway through, the movie kind of picks up because we are introduced to the Bigfoot creature, okay? And then, you know, this is where the movie will get better for people or it'll get stupider for people. I guess it depends on what you like, but it's man versus Bigfoot. They have battles back and forth, cat and mouse games, you know, fighting, stuff like that. But I like the fact that David is a big guy. You can tell he works out, so he's not some puny little guy. And the Bigfoot is a fair size too. And we do get to see the Bigfoot. Now, again, micro budget. But I will say the creature in this movie looks fairly decent. Yes, is it a guy in a suit? Absolutely it is. And I've said this till I'm blue in the face. I will take, you know, a semi-okay looking guy in a suit, whether it be an alien or a Bigfoot or I don't care what, but I will accept that as long as the effort's put in, as opposed to a CGI creature or Bigfoot, which will just look fucking terrible, and they always do. This is a real guy in a suit. I mean, all this movie's practical. I don't think there's any CGI in here other than the muzzle flashes, to be honest with you. All the blood splatter and the gore, and when he breaks his leg and stuff like that, like it's all practical effects, which I applaud, because a lot of times these lower budget, you know, micro budget movies will try and cheap out with CGI, and they didn't. So I'll give them that. And the creature, for the most part, they took a big gamble here because, again, we see a lot of the creature. Now, I don't think they should have done this. They should have waited more till the end for the payoff. But we do see the creature early, and we see him often through the second act and into the third act. Like full-blown daytime shots of the creature. For the most part, it looked pretty good. Okay, now, again, micro budget. All right, I mean, but his face looked pretty good. His hands looked good. The feet. It was just the bodysuit. I mean, it's got to be so expensive to make those bodysuits look good on a full-size man in a suit, like trying to be a Bigfoot creature. But for the most part, I think they pulled it off. You just have to be forgiving, okay? But what I did like about this movie, all right, was they tried to put like nods to other movies in here. I guess maybe just to keep it interesting. Like there's a ton of nods to the Rambo movies in here with you know, Jack Rawlins' character. And then the fight scene that takes place kind of near the end of the second act into the third is a complete nod to Predator, okay? From the diving in the lake to the Arnold Schwarzenegger yell when he's summoning, you know, the Predator creature to come after he's ready, to the setup, you know, where he's carving the sticks and the spears and he's setting the rock trap and all that. Like it's all just a big nod to Predator, and I appreciated that too because it kept the movie interesting. This movie, honestly, could have been a huge fucking disastrous disappointment. And it was because of these few things that they threw in there that it made me accept this movie. Now, whether you all do, that's up to you, okay? To each their own. But for me, it kind of saved this movie for me. Because again, the acting is not very good in this movie. If you're looking at this movie for dialogue, you're not going to find it. It's forced and cringy and for the most part, pretty terrible. But the action sequences are fairly decent for this budgeted style movie. The creature looks okay. Trust me, I've seen a lot bigger budgeted movies that have way worse looking creatures in it than this. And we get to see a lot of it. They don't try and hide it in the shadows a lot. Although I don't think they should have revealed him as soon. They should have waited maybe into the third act. But, you know, they did. And you can either accept it or you can't. You know what I mean? But the fight sequences were a little sketchy, you know what I mean? But if they were going for that grindhouse style, that 80s kind of schlocky fucking style, then that's what you're going to get in this movie. I do think that this movie could have been trimmed down. The editing in this was kind of sketchy. There was tons of scenes that could have been removed fully out of this movie to kind of keep the pace going, because it does drag in a lot of spots. It's an hour and 31 minutes, and God honestly, this movie could have been trimmed down to like an hour and 10. There was easily 20 minutes of just filler that could have been yanked out of this flick just to kind of keep the pace going. And I didn't like the ending. There's two endings to this movie. There's like the initial ending, which I thought was okay. It was pretty cool. But then there's like a whole secondary kind of a end sequence that they could have just fucking trimmed off and got rid of. I mean, I know what they were trying to do, you know, because the whole movie they're trying to humanize this Bigfoot creature, right? And I get that, but they didn't need the ending. They could have done without that. Yeah, and it just would have kept the pace going a little bit more, and I don't know, but that's just my opinion. So I know I rag on a lot of movies and rant about them, but I do feel the effort was put in here, so I'm not going to rip it apart too bad, even though I picked out all the stuff I didn't like. But you get that with low-budget movies, but you can tell when the effort is put in, and I seriously think that they put a lot of effort into this movie, because it's shot great. There's a lot of overhead and cinematic shots in the forest and stuff that are killer, that you don't get that quality in this style of movie. So they did pull some things off with the micro-budget movies. So anyways, it's out now. Like I said, you can rent it on YouTube for $5. It's called Man vs. Bigfoot. Give it a watch. Give it a watch and let me know what you think. I mean, some of you guys, you know, might put in the comments that I'm a fucking bozo and shouldn't be doing reviews for not ripping this movie right apart. But I don't know. You have to look past sometimes, and I do think the effort was put in. And, you know, lots wrong with it, but at the end of it, it was semi-enjoyable, because they did put those little things into it to kind of keep you interested. So anyways, that's me. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think about this one, guys. If you have seen it. If you haven't, like I always say, definitely go rent it. Make up your own opinion, then come back here and let me know what you think. And until next time, guys, stay scared.